Hey, it's Cleet. Welcome back to another episode of the Attractions Group podcast. This week we have on Jon Salisbury, who is the CEO and Chief AI Officer at Nexogen, to talk about the way AI is going to and already is impacting the attractions industry. Of course, on top of that, we've got some 4th of July recap and a preview into the future of the Attractions Group podcast. Without further ado, let's get started.
Hey, Cleet.
How's it going?
What's going on? It's going good. What's going on in Orlando?
You know,
I assume
it's
you're in
hot.
Orlando.
Yes. It's great. You know, it's another great day. But how about? I heard it's actually hotter right now where you are than where I am.
Maybe, I've turned myself as the humidity level expert analyst this morning, and honestly, it's hot here, 90, 92 degrees. That's not uncommon up here, but my goodness, the 1,000% humidity I can do without. And it's not just so bad that it's humid out. It's just there's no breeze. There's nothing to take it away. You can sweat a pool just standing.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll put up with this through the first 3 weeks of July. Then it transitions to a dry heat through the month of August, and then we start hitting 40-degree temperatures once again right after Labor Day.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's how the year rolls out.
That's great. Not bad. So I my name is, as you might see this week, is Raya and the Last Dragon. So
there's a backstory, I'm assuming.
I just watched this movie recently, and I don't want to be over dramatic. Okay, I don't want to sell anything.
Of course, that's not your nature.
No, not at all. But this is easily the greatest movie ever made. Nothing else has ever come close.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just you got to go watch it. I'm
not as up on my that genre movies here in my recent years, but is that Pixar?
It's just Walt Disney Animation Studios.
Okay.
Yeah. 2021 kind of got a lot of it. Just not a lot of people saw it because it came out at an unfortunate time for movies. But
wonder when that was.
Yeah, right. But you got to go watch it right now. It is. I mean, seriously, it is the best movie I've ever seen. It's not actually close. It is so unbelievably good.
I'm still waiting on the Final Reckoning, Mission Impossible come out on streaming. I was going to go watch it in the movie theater, but at the same time, we did one of those things where you take a room in your basement or a section of your basement, you turn it into a theater room. We didn't do a theater room, but we have the surround sound hooked up to the thing, and in the big screen TV. We were going to do a projection, but when the Black Friday specials came out, I want the 85-incher. So we hung that on the wall, and I got to tell you, the first movie that we showed down there was Top Gun Maverick. Oh. And hear the what do you call it? The surround sound. Here comes the airplane coming towards you, and then all of a sudden it's behind you. It's like, okay, it's not loud enough. Crank it a little higher. So I'm waiting on Dead Reckoning coming on streaming on Paramount Plus. Not promoting them at all, but that's just where it's going to be. And it's going to be a dark room in the basement with loud speakers rolling.
All right.
That will be. I'm guessing that's going to be my new favorite movie.
Oh wow, you're a big Mission Impossible guy.
Bold prediction. Yeah.
Okay. Exciting. Well, so you have 4th of July was just this weekend. Did you have any exciting? Did you do anything exciting?
We did. We did. We took in 3. I live in northern Cincinnati, so I believe it was on the 3rd. The 3rd was the city of Mason. They had their fireworks display. Now they have. I assume they're Rozzie's fireworks. Everything in Cincinnati has Rozzie's name attached to it somehow. They do the Riverfest fireworks, and they do a great job at that. So the fireworks are great. And then halfway through the show, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it's kind of a funny story. All of a sudden, the drones start coming out. You're like, oh, this is going to be good. It's fireworks with the Razzies, and here's a drone show. So the first image that comes up is and I'm going to guess there's 300 drones I'm guessing Kings Island has 200, and so they had more than that. Holiday World had 500, and it's less than that. So I'm going to guess there's 300 drones part of the show. That's just my assumption. So they get up there. First thing they have is an American flag. Like, okay, this is good. So then all of a sudden you see a handful of drones start falling out of the sky. Is this part of the show, or is it the next image? So then they have a Statue of Liberty is the next piece, and it's missing a few bulbs. So then it collapses and gets ready to do the next one. A couple more start falling down, and as it goes on, I'm going to guess there are 300. I don't know how many there were. There's more than 200, less than 500. By the end of the show, and I don't know why no one just decided, let's abort mission here and call the rest of the drones back. You could count by the end of the drone show, there are only 12 drones still in the sky trying to make something, make an image. So it was kind of funny. I feel bad for the people putting it on. I feel bad for the city of Mason because I'm sure they spent a pretty good amount of money on this, but it was just funny to watch unfold. So 12.
Wow.
It was funny because they just kept falling out of the sky. Yeah, we went to another local 4th of July fireworks in the city of Loveland, and they had a great display. Again, probably Rosie's. And then I got to tell you, in last week we did a pretty good amount of cutting on Six Flags, and in particular maybe some of Kings Island. But I tell you what, when credit is due, I'll give credit. And I tell you what, their 4th of July, which for us ended up being the 5th of July celebration, their fireworks and drone show, A+. Could not have been a better show. I mean, honestly, A++ if there's such a grade. They really did a great job with it. The light show was great. The drones were awesome, and just specific. They did this specifically for the 4th of July. It wasn't just an extension of their normal show. They actually had different. Had 1776 written in the air. They had an American flag up in the air, USA in the air. It was a really well done show. So props to the creative team at Kings Island. I don't know if the other Cedar Fair Park or Six Flags parks had similar displays, but it really well done.
Cool.
And props to them for that.
Cool.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I worked, of course, and the 4th of July, not speaking on behalf of Disney or anything like that.
Of course not. You never do.
Is great there. They do a very exciting show. I didn't get to see the fireworks or anything like that. I was interested in sleep more so than seeing the fireworks. But it was a really high energy day in just terms of the visitors and everything. So it was exciting. And not to mention, then on, let's see, that was so then on the 5th, the day after, I was working at ESPN Wide World of Sports over there. Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was just, ushering mostly. But it was great. I got to watch basketball,
nice.
For a good portion. So it was, very basketball, makes you, I don't know. I feel like sports are always the thing that make me the most patriotic. Like the U.S. men's basketball team, LeBron James, these things make me love America.
Well, important question. Were you in the air conditioning?
I was.
There you
important
go. That makes
answer.
It all better.
It really does. It really does. So you want to go into one of the news things now?
Yeah.
Cool. So, okay, I'll start off.
All right.
So, speaking of it being like July, what's today?
Yeah, we're recording on the 8th.
Okay. The 7th was the date of closure for both the Liberty Bell, the boat at Magic Kingdom, and for Tom Sawyer Island at Magic Kingdom. So those attractions are of the past now. They're over. If you look on your My Disney Experience app, they're gone from the map.
They went poof.
They really did.
It's almost sad.
So it is. It is always sad.
The question is, because I know it's coming there, which is going to be exciting when it opens. But is that whole area going to change, or just where Tom Sawyer's Island was?
I think just where, I don't know for sure, but I like the other side of the road, whether it's the Liberty Square part or the Frontier Town, I think that's all staying. Only the actual Tom Sawyer Island part is changing, but we'll have to see exactly what the Imagineers have for us.
Very cool. And how long? When is it scheduled to open? Do they have a date yet?
Nothing yet. So, but I think it'll be out of all of the lands that Disney has announced. We know there's Tropical America's coming to Animal Kingdom. We know there's Villains. Obviously, we know there's Cars Land coming. And obviously Monsters Inc. Land too at Hollywood Studios. I do think this will be the first one to open. That's just me guessing. Okay. But I think Cars Land will be the first one to open.
Very cool. It'll be fun when it gets there. And like a lot of people, you walk through the frontier area and you see the Tom Sawyer's Island and the big boat. And I always thought to myself, we should, I don't know what that is, but we should really do that. And we never do. Well, we'll get to it the next time. Well, guess that's not going to happen. I'll have to settle for the Jungle Cruise, I guess.
Yeah. There's great boats. It's a Small World. Another great boat.
I do like the guides on the Jungle Cruise.
Oh yeah,
a good guide can make or break the ride, and I tell you, I have yet to be disappointed.
Yeah, they're amazing. They are.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of new things opening, Kalahari Resorts and Conventions reached a construction milestone in Virginia. So they are building a $900 million development in, I guess it's not on here what town it's in. I'm assuming it's, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. But it's going to be a 1.38 million square foot development with 900 rooms. 900 rooms.
That is no joke.
That isn't. And I tell you what, it's probably going to be their largest, I would assume, they're also their largest indoor water park. Kalaharis are huge.
$900 million is a crazy amount of money for a water park, though.
I think of that. $1 million per guest. But no, have you been to Kalahari before?
I've been to the one in Sandusky.
Okay.
But that's it, yeah. And I did love it. I mean, it's a cool place.
Even the one in Sandusky, I don't know how big it is. It's obviously not that big, but it's huge. If you walk inside there, it is just gigantic.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm trying to see if I really don't see anything about where this is. Okay, it's going to be within driving distance of Richmond and Washington, D.C.
That's what I assumed, because those are the two main areas, which means it's also within striking distance of King's Dominion, Busch Gardens, and what will be formerly the Six Flags America.
Yes, what will be formerly, right.
Yeah.
Yes. So in addition to this, in this kind of non-theme park entertainment world, Chuck E. Cheese is getting in on the fun and has announced that they're going to be building, or at least kind of debuting this new concept for a family entertainment center that's more geared towards adults. Maybe for adults who want to, their whole thing is where a kid can be a kid, but I guess this will be where an adult can be a kid.
Where it would be acceptable to have an adult beverage.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Chuck's Arcade, I think it's called.
Chuck's Arcade. How about that? That's a good name too. So
that is.
We'll have to see. I'm excited to see what they do with that, especially because that's it's very different, of course. But with Netflix houses, family entertainment centers geared towards adults, they're kind of similar ideas. So we'll see how it goes.
All driven towards the entertainment, which is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this fleshes out in the next 5 years.
Yeah, it will be. Because
especially with John being on later, I mean, and we'll get into this when we're in the interview, but AI has come on and changed a lot of things. And John and I worked kind of in parallel universes about 5 years ago. Not saying that AI wasn't around then, but it was not. It wasn't even an afterthought. It was something you kind of, this is coming, but we don't know anything about it. And that was just 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so with these, I'm going to say there's going to be a lot of virtual reality and augmented reality with these Chuck's Arcades, which, by the way, I'm old enough to remember back when Chuck E. Cheese might have been separate from a place called Showbiz Pizza, and the two became one, and they became Chuck E. Cheese. But you probably don't remember the Showbiz Pizza.
I've never heard of it, actually. Never. Yeah.
Nope. But it'll be interesting to see what the landscape of this looks like in 5 years. I mean, it's hard to imagine how much things have changed in the last 5 years.
Right. Yeah, so that'll be great to talk about that in the interview, especially in terms of the FECs. I think they can benefit a
Yes,
tremendous amount.
absolutely.
Dollywood has brought back from its temporary lull Blazing Fury, which I think is the oldest coaster at the park. And it is a really, really fun one. Blazing Fury is really great kids family ride. And it is going to be opening back up. It's been down since March 14th, since the park opened this season. It hasn't been operational, but finally it's going to be opening this year, which I think it was up in the air, whether or not it was going to be down for the whole year for the refurbishment. But at least for me, I always do think with an older ride, it's great to see them take a little time to close it so that it'll have a longer future with the park. That's what they're interested in, keeping it around.
Is there, now, I'm a little slow on this and knowing where this came from, but was it open with the beginning of the season and just went down for a little bit, or was this extended through last year?
No, I think it's. Yeah, I think it's been open since it's been closed since the beginning of the season. It hasn't operated in 2025 at all, is what this is saying. But if it was less than a week for sure, because
there's a lot of new attractions that have that story.
Yeah,
yet this year.
Apparently, right? Apparently, and a couple of refurbishments. We haven't yet seen Intimidator 305, or gosh, I don't even remember what they renamed it to, but we haven't seen that ride open up yet. Wow, it's pretty bad that I don't know the name.
Yeah.
Do you know it, the new one?
I had a conversation with someone about it just 2 days ago, but do you think I can remember it? No.
I don't know. Someone tell us in the comments below and tell us how embarrassing it is for us that we don't know. We'll agree with you.
Yeah. And Clete, I think we touched on this a little bit last week, but I think it bears mentioning again. If you've been to, and I think I kind of remember the conversation now, but if you didn't hear it, I'm just going to repeat it again. So if you've been to any of the Orlando Informer events, which a long time ago I thought was just a newspaper or something like that, but it's something a lot bigger than that. They have approximately 400,000 members worldwide. So they're not just a dog and pony operation. They've got some serious events going on. They rent out the Universal parks for private events. Used to be very on occasion, and then it was every quarter, then it was every month. Now it seems like they're doing it every couple of weeks. But it's the best time to go. It costs a little more, but your ticket includes your admission to the park, essentially your front of the line pass, and all the food and drinks. Now, it's not really a front of the line pass, but there's only, I think the number is 10,000 people for 2 parks, which spreads out really nice, and you don't wait a long time at all. There's a guy there who was there. Let's see. I don't know what his title was. Matt Miller, who was with the Orlando Informer for a number of years. He was a featured contributor on Theme Park Thursdays on Fox 35 in Orlando. And he even has his own IMDb page. You know what IMDb stands for?
Internet Movie Database, of course.
There you go. He's got his own IMDb page. And I'm sure one of his highlights really in his career, I'm sure, was when he was interviewed on this podcast a number of years ago with Ryan and Don. I'm sure that was a highlight. But
I'm sure. Yes.
Yeah, I'm absolutely positive. Matt wrote on his LinkedIn page a couple days ago that his time with the Orlando Informer has come to an end, and he's moving on. He's staying in Orlando, staying in the industry, but he's no longer, seemingly, I would assume, the face of the Orlando Informer. And if you've ever been to an event, then you know who Mama Miller is too, and she will be going as well. So, well, I assume she'll be going, but very, very, very good individual Matt Miller is. If you know him, you've ever called him on his phone, reach his voicemail. Getting his recording on his voicemail is worth the phone call to him. It literally is. I've tried to emulate it, but I'm thinking, I'll copy off of someone else. The best ideas are stolen, by the way. But best of luck to Matt. I haven't spoken to him in a few months, but best of luck to him, and see you sometime maybe in November.
Yeah.
Well, Clete, today we got a great interview coming, and when it comes to the subject of AI, it's like someone's backside. Everyone's got one. Everyone's got an opinion of what AI is, what they can do with it, what it should do, and what it shouldn't do. But very rarely do we get an opportunity to have a legitimate expert in the area of AI come on the show that we can talk to and just bump questions to and get the real lowdown on what it is. Because just not even 5 years ago, AI was not talked about it was something coming down the path, but it really wasn't anything imminent. And maybe even 3 years ago, but today it's very present. Everyone's got an opinion about it, but we're going to have someone here that actually has probably legitimate opinions on it, and maybe more than opinions, but more like facts. We have the co-founder and CEO, as well as a chief AI officer of NextGen, based in the greater Cincinnati area, Jon Salisbury. And there's a couple other things that he does coming on, but we'll let him get into that. But John, always mobile in the vehicle, going from place to place. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Sorry about that. We're always. I am mobile quite a bit. I probably shouldn't be as mobile as I am, but there's always family life, work, everything else. It's sort of how it works sometimes.
And I think you do a little biking, right?
Yeah, occasionally I'll get on a bicycle and ride around. My goal is to ride from California, San Diego to St. Augustine, Florida. So that'd be a 3,800 mile bike ride is the goal.
Wow.
That would take about 45 days. But yeah, I like biking that much.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just for shoot from the hip, how far do you ride daily? What's your average?
So this weekend I'm doing a half Ironman. If I'm focusing on a half Ironman, I'm probably doing 100 to 150 miles a week, and then I'm running around 10 to 20 miles a week, and then I'm swimming around 2 miles a week. And then if I'm doing, that's for a half Ironman. If I'm doing just biking with some other stuff, then typically I'm sitting around 200 miles a week.
Wow, that's incredible.
No joke.
You know,
sort of how I it's how I get out of bed, man. I get out of bed and right at the butt crack of dawn, and then I get moving like 30, 40 miles. That's usually how I start my day. That's usually that, and then I do like some meditation, praying, and then journaling, that kind of stuff. That's usually beginning of the day.
Cool.
That's very cool. I mean, some people, when they hit their midlife crisis, they buy a 2-seater. John, he gets himself probably about a $10,000 bike and rides.
I'm actually pretty. I'm very like cost conscious, so but I do sponsor a bike team, which is we have like 10 guys and 10 girls. They're amateur athletes, which is one of the top bike teams in Cincinnati. It's the NextGen Racing bike team, and those are. When I was young, I played semi-professional volleyball. I guess I made about 28 grand a year or something like that. I think 1 year we were playing volleyball, city volleyball. But I always wish someone would sponsor me, because you don't make very much playing, but you spend a lot like trying to. And that's where I'm in a position now where I could sponsor. And I was like, well, do you want to, like my brand, the guy who helps me with my branding, he asked me a question and set me off on a journey. But he basically was like, what brand do you admire the most? And I was trying to think, like, which brand do I like think is like the best brand that I would want to be most like? And I went to Patagonia, which is really about like environmentally sustainable, really about community, really about finding a tribe and then really leaning into that tribe to be helpful for the tribe we found. And I was like, and they do so many good things all over the planet, but I was like, okay, well, what can we do like that here? So we fund trails with Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance. We then bike. We sponsor local athletes, and we sponsor disabled athlete or a what would you call it? Adaptive athlete, David Whalen. We sponsor a bunch of people like that, and then we do more with a charity work in our local community, places we can go out and touch. And that just became like our version of Patagonia for Cincinnati area. It was like kind of where we put our marketing budget. And then it's just like, can we tell stories about that? But biking is a big part of that journey for me personally. And it's something I can like, it's a tribe that I know the good people. I know who's like doing really good things. And I feel very good. Like we're in a position where we can write checks. So we feel very good about where we're writing checks to.
Very cool.
So tell us then a little bit about what NextGen is, how it got started, where the idea came from, and maybe a little bit about what the future of it is before we get into the AI and the theme park stuff that we're excited to get into.
So NextGen, I've got a weird story. I'm a high school dropout. So I literally dropped out of high school and got my GED and went to go play professional volleyball in California and then Florida. And I have ADHD pretty significantly, and I was a voracious reader on my own, and my parents are both teachers, multiple masters. And when I didn't show up to high school and did my thing, my dumb thing in life, my dad was like crying. I made my dad cry, and I ended up heading out to California. But during that time, I was a voracious reader. So I was devouring books on my own. But if I'm in class, when you have ADHD, you're hyper aware of all of your surroundings. And when I say hyper aware, I mean if someone's moving their finger 2 rows behind me, I can sense that to a degree. And it's all a distraction. And it's very hard for me to learn in group settings to this day. But if I go on my own and go read and do these types of things, I can learn extremely fast. And I have accelerated reading because I can dial in that attention on all those things. And when I'm reading something, I'm usually running through analysis of what I'm reading like real time. So I get like really good understanding of what I'm reading. Now, or what I'm experimenting with. But Nexogen, sort of after volleyball goofiness, I'm not 6'5" and I wasn't able to make it pro, but I did experience what that feels like. I did play in the AVP qualifying series and so forth. Then I went in to start a restaurant, which is weird, but it made sense at the time, which turned into 5 restaurants, and all of them are not doing well, or they're all out of, not working now. We ended up selling that off years later, and ended up being a financial not benefit. But it taught me a lot at a very early age about what it is to run a business, about how contracts work, how inventory management works, how point of sale system works, how to manage young people works. Get to experience doing it the wrong way, really failing. And then went over back to school to get education in like these like very specific learning routes. So like Microsoft certified systems engineer, Cisco certified network associate, VMware certified. Well, this is before VMware, but these types of things where you're getting like these specialty certifications on kind of like solo tracks. And then I went to work really at Best Buy, which I think is, if you're a nerd, which I really was, is like the ultimate place to like really at that age was awesome because you got a huge discount on electronics and you're just around a bunch of other nerds. And I ended up being like accelerated to the top of the nerddom at Florence Best Buy, which means that you make it to the tech bench and you're fixing computers. And I was good at and I also learned what people were looking for because every day someone was coming in, hey, what do I need? All these kind of things, or I'm looking for this. And then I would ask them a million questions and then end up kind of designing them a solution like off the cuff. But I had thousands of reps of doing this. Go up to the tech bench and I meet my business partner, JJ Schaefer. And while we were working on the tech bench, we had a whiteboard there. So we'd be fixing people's computers, designing little tools to help us. And as we were there, JJ, who's a computer engineer, very smart, went to Embry-Riddle, very, very smart guy, like eidetic memory, programmer, full stack, knows how to do like machine coding. I had read at this point, The Singularity is Near, which is Ray Kurzweil's book on where artificial intelligence and singularity would come into existence back in back in 2002, 2001. So I was kind of working with neural nets back then, which is what those became ChatGPT and so forth. So a lot of experience in AI even at that point. We were on a whiteboard talking, saying, JJ made this statement: whoever owned the most processors would win. So this idea of computation being this like critical thing in the world was like something that we were thinking about at 21 years old, and really realizing that most processors weren't being used fully. So back then it was like Pentium 3s, Pentium 4s, and most people were only using 1 or 2% of their processor. So you had 98% of a valuable asset not being utilized on every computer in every house. Then when you talked about servers, like where multiple people were using it, you still only had like 2 or 3 or 4% of processors being utilized. Everything else was just empty capacity. So we then realized we could create a system, which is, we called it utility computing, which is you could basically access the excess memory. So say you're only using 20% or 10% of your memory, you're only using 10% of your storage, you're only using 2% of your processor. You could basically sublease out the excess capacity, and then you could have organizations share the same infrastructure. Now, that's called virtualization, is what we were talking about. And we were talking about the cloud. Now, that's just 10 years before anybody was talking about the cloud, is what we were building at a small office down in Ludlow, Kentucky, which I believe is the first cloud in the greater Cincinnati area. We maxed out Ludlow, Kentucky's bandwidth at 2 T1s at the time, which is 3 megs up and down with our capacity. And we had a few customers. Now, we put $500 in each. VMware had $250 million in funding. So we ended up not beating VMware, but that's really who we started off like going out and competing against. Now, people didn't understand what we were talking about, and they didn't know really like what the technology benefit was. And honestly, at the time, the value from a dollar standpoint wasn't as big for a lot of organizations because technology had not been integrated as deeply into their companies as they are now. So they would just say to me, hey, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. Can you just sell me a server, a backup plan, and networking equipment and help my office out? And then if my employees have problems, can they call you? And we turned into basically what's nowadays called a managed service provider. So we have a help desk, a network operations center, a security operations center, a cloud deployment team, now an AI research lab, all sorts of these different capabilities in house, and we offer it to organizations for over 2,000 across the globe. That's sort of how like we came into existence, and then just slowly grew. No outside capital, and through the years we have started. We've had 15 companies, 6 failures, 2 exits, and 7 active businesses today. NextGen's the one that we work at daily, but we've got business partners at different organizations, and there's probably a little over 200 families in the greater Cincinnati area that count on us to make good decisions. So we have a lot of responsibility under us right now, and we're also have a lot of customers that expect us to stay ahead and help them. So we're guiding other professionals in the area. So today I'm taking PhD classes in artificial advanced work in computation and networking and so forth. So we're kind of still on the bleeding edge.
Cool.
Well, I have like a diversion question because you said something I didn't know. I've known you for not quite a decade, maybe a little bit less than that, but I didn't know you had 5 restaurants. What kind of restaurants do you have? What was the name?
So the name was, I was an investor in it. My old volleyball coach was actually the guy who's the primary. And I'm not like born with a silver spoon. My parents are both teachers, but my aunt, this is like a long way. I always answer questions like the full way, I guess. But my aunt had left a little money for me and my brother because she was a doctor. So I took that money and I paid for my dad and I to go back to get certifications. And then I had some left and I put it into that restaurant, which is a bad use of that money, by the way. But the restaurant was called Cornerstone Cafe and Bakehouse. And the original concept is pretty cool. It was a mix between Big Sky Bread, which you could basically call Panera, and then also Dewey's Pizza, which is a really like good, healthy pizza restaurant. You kind of blend those two together, and that's what we were. So we really had, I made bread, we had like lots of fruits and lots of vegetables, lots of healthy options. And then we had like stone style pizza. Our first restaurant was on Union Center Boulevard, and that restaurant actually did well. The other ones were never successful. Like we did one in where Forest Fair Mall is. That one didn't succeed. We did one in the city of Hamilton. That one did okay. Didn't end up not doing very well. We did one in the Cornerstone Industrial Plant, kind of a kiosk, and then we had one on Towlersville Road. Now the one that actually ended up being the one that was like, okay, was the one original one. And I'll tell you, restaurants, location. That's number one. And then two is keeping everything clean and then really working on your organization and supply chain. Real big deals.
Yeah.
Very cool. And literally, you've been working with cloud AI longer than it's been a household. Not that it's a household name yet, but it's coming. If not already there, but you've been working with it for decades before it even got out.
Yeah, we have a smart city company that we made in 2015, which is we make 8-foot tall iPhones that we have about 1,200 of them across the country. That was all built on basically the understanding that AI was coming in. At the time, Google DeepMind, a guy named Demis Hassabis created it. He used to do the first artificial intelligence for video games back in like 2007. Then he sold. It was like if you ever played Black and White, he made that game, the AI in that. Then he ended up going back to school after he sold his game company. Created he figured out a little bit better how memory works in the brain. That was his PhD thesis. And then he started a company called Google DeepMind, or DeepMind is what it was called. And then within a year, he was doing stuff in deep learning where pretty much everybody in the world flew out there, and he got bought by Google for multi-billions of dollars. And now he's their head of AI. When he was doing those activities, he ended up creating a chess machine called Alpha Zero, I think it was, which was I can't remember the exact name. I should know, but it basically was able to do chess with a neural net, which is a really, I mean, computers are already better than humans at chess, but he built a way where it was like a human playing, which is like a brain basically. And then he also figured out how to play video games better than humans, and just all these sort of like general tasks. When he did that, we saw the writing on the wall. We're like, hey, this is like the AI's coming. And when it does, the assets that are going to be beneficial are cameras, human interfacing, maps location, also other telemetry activities that you could basically feed back into an AI system or a database, you're now getting like new types of capabilities out of your data. So we created what's called regional IoT centers with a group called Venture Smarter that I was a part of, where we threw conferences around the world in smart cities, specifically around AI, and we met all of the AI leaders in the Midwest, and I'd say even on the East and West Coast, back in 2015-16 through these series of conferences. We saw all sorts of technologies, all sorts of leaders then, and really got like, I guess, baptized in that space. Like we really went deep, and that company's still running. We have kiosks all the way into around the country. But there's these 8-foot tall iPhones, and that's really where that and cybersecurity were our two first major, like we were all in AI. Nowadays I know how to build them by hand, so I can just take data and make my own AI models. I can make them in fuzzy genetic algorithms. We can make them as neural nets or deep learning systems. We can use them. We can grow our own rules with genetic algorithms. This is all like stuff that I've learned how to do. I think it's kind of the future of programming, kind of to a degree, but it's a different way. It's a little bit of an art form and a science, because you're like kind of twisting knobs and hitting bells, and then you're watching. You kind of run simulations, and then you wait for the outcome. So the way AI is built and then the way it's used are two different things. Like the way it's built is sort of this really kind of weird process that's not fully understood. And then the way it's used is a prompt that you interact with, and it puts out magic, right? So it's kind of weird. Once you lift up the curtain, to me, when I think about AI, I think of it more like an Excel sheet and a really advanced macro, because I can understand that underneath the curtain. But on the outside, people will think it's like a synthetic life form sometimes. You're like, oh, I don't know if I'd call Excel a synthetic life form,
Well, John, now you and I got connected back in your 8-foot iPad days. I don't know how involved you are with that end of the business anymore. I believe you're still an investor on the board, whatever, but you're not involved day to day. But that is where we came up with the first concept, I think at the time, for the attractions industry, the concept of a smart park, which I think was maybe a couple years ahead of its time at that point, because AI back in 2017, 16, whenever we got connected, wasn't really a thing. And I remember punching a bunch of content out about smart parks, what it can be and how to interconnect everything. And really at that time, it just kind of fell on on deaf ears, to my honest opinion. Then of course we get our big splash 6 weeks before the pandemic sits in, and then from where I sit, demands changed, the desire on the other side changed, and full disclosure, I really think that the attractions industry, for as creative and as forward thinking it is, there are some areas that they're still playing catch up on. I think AI is one of those, and I think they use AI a lot in regards to marketing, but that's not even a pinprick of what the AI, what what it can do. And one of the questions I have for you, and if you can go on a little journey on this, is let's say XYZ Park contacts you, and they're getting ready to make their first venture into AI outside of marketing, into guest experience, operations, back office, HR, whatever it is. The marketing departments use it, maybe not as much as they could or as effectively, but they're making the next jump into that. If they contact Jon Salisbury at NextGen, AI officer, what is the first? What roadmap would you give them to begin rolling this out?
So that's a really good question, and my answer would have changed 10 years ago to 2 years ago to 3 months ago, for God's sakes. It's a rapidly advancing field. I mean, It is rapidly advancing. In fact, we created a research lab just to keep up with the advancements, which is incredible. So if you follow me on like LinkedIn, which is where I typically am, I put out sometimes 5 research papers a day with analysis of ones that actually I think are mattering or kind of changing the game. So it's kind of weird. The way it's moving now, I'll kind of start with this reference point. It's scaling so fast that even the frontier labs, which are the places with all the compute, cannot keep up with it because it's so decentralized. So everybody has access, everybody has capability sets, and smart people exist all over the world, and they're testing things or coming up with concepts that no one's done before every day. And there's like multitude of them, and there are billionaires giving them lots of money to do this, a lot of money. So everybody's really well funded, and they're all testing all these ideas. And I don't think many people are making that much money right now. But everybody that is invested in needs to produce income to some degree if they're productized. And so you have this new type of company which has to have research because you got to figure out what's coming. And then you also have to have a product side. And those two sides are not unified typically. Usually you have research and development. And a lot of groups are trying to merge those two, like research and development, in the same thing. So you end up with these products that are, I mean, if you talk about research, you're talking about things that are 5 years out, 3 years out. So these are alpha tests. And I would almost consider ChatGPT to be a kind of product of that. It was literally released as an absolute test, an experiment. Let's just put this out there and see what people do with it. Very, 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 very like bones, like no skin, like just the bones were put out, and it just took off. Now that taking off has turned into everybody following that same approach, where you just have a lot of like alpha tools out there that are, I mean, if you put something into ChatGPT, you should expect the whole world to know about that because it gets put into the database. And the way ChatGPT works, or something like that works, is they suck in all the data from the whole internet. And then from there, it gets compressed down into a file. And now that file is available to everybody, right? Now, there's a lot of insecurity that goes into that because they can record all of your conversations. If they're recording all of your conversations, then they basically have a massive surveillance state type of equation. So you have, like, the government, I believe, I mean, I don't want to say this, like, I believe the government's requiring all of the conversations to stay recorded, because when you're interacting with all the world's data, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. And there's people, I mean, you could theoretically use it to create a nuclear bomb, or use it to figure out how to make a poison gas and kill a bunch of people. So there's a lot of harmful things that can be done. And it's really hard to stop people from doing those things. So when I'm advising groups today, I mean, it depends on the size of the company, and it depends on the use case. And you'll hear this word use case a lot. It's like, what are we going to use it for? Most organizations do not even know how to formulate a use case with this yet. It's already been out for
Exactly.
2.5 years. I don't even know how to do that. So what we try to do first is really interact with an organization to figure out like where they're at. And that doesn't mean going to the C-level and saying, hey, where are you guys at? That means going deeper into the organization, not to the bottom, but deeper into the organization, and getting data out of the organization. Now, you don't want data only. You need data, plus you need the people that can explain the data, because everybody's data is formatted for their own organization. So you might say in your organization, profit means X. And when you get specific, another organization, profit might not mean the same thing. It might be compiled of a different set of numbers. And the way they label that is that usually in a table or in documents, and it uses this company's like own terminology and their own interpretation of it. So one, you got to figure out all what that is. And then you got to figure out where the competency level is on their people in association with that data. Like how well do they know it? How well do they understand how the business operates? And then can they figure out a way where that business can operate in an improved manner through what I would just call automation, or even like you could call it the more terms you use, the more you confuse people. So just automation.
Yeah.
And then from there, then you can kind of do like an analysis of the potentiality across an organization for automation. And then if you can figure that out, you can kind of put that on an evaluation scorecard. Now you take that back up to the big boys. You let them kind of analyze, you figure out gaps, problems, areas of improvement, areas to look at. Then from there, you go to market and you look at like if there's a build or buy type scenario. And then it turns into more like traditional software. Now, what we do a little differently is since we build our own AI models from scratch, which can be way more precise, we can add a wrinkle of, hey, we can build custom models, or we can do a market evaluation with what we call an algorithmic evaluation, which means that the model the company says our model can do this. One, we understand what the model is made of because it's a network, like a neural network or a deep learning network or another type of a deep learning or was a deep neural network, or there's a million different types of recurrent neural networks and so forth. But they usually build them off of specific algorithms, and specific algorithms do certain things. So certain algorithms are good for precision, some are good for generality, some are good for searching, some are good for general searching, some are good for all these different things. So they'll actually say what they do in the marketing. Then we'll actually look at their math to see if it actually can achieve that from a philosophical standpoint. And then we'll have them prove it to us with an actual use case before making a purchase. Then we also usually know what the gaps are that exist when you buy, because the old 80-20 rule is probably more like 60-40 now. It's probably going to handle 50% to 60% of what you want because the products haven't matured yet enough on this technology. So you end up like, do we even want to build on top of that? Do we need to gap fill? Do we need to hold other places? Because sometimes these use cases that we're seeing, they're pretty big. Like some of them are pretty ambitious. Like some of them are like, we want to go after the ocean. And some of them are achievable like that because they have the right data and they know they do. So it's just a big project. Now, ultimately at the end though, you're like, okay, we know what the problem is. We know we have a solution. So how do you measure success? Now that question right there is actually very challenging. And most people do not know how to answer the question that I just asked. How do we measure success? They'll just say, well, it works. Well, how do you measure that? And how do you do that in this new manner? How do you continuously improve it? So we've got a specific formula and methodology for doing that very accurately on just maybe 5 or 6 KPIs total. And you get those developed, and now you can run this automation with these 4 or 5, maybe 6 KPIs. And at the end, if those KPIs are hitting and the numbers that you've pre-agreed to, you're doing very well. And your system is running very well. So we know how to put the system together. We know how to bring the people around it and then bring the KPIs around that. Now, you have governance over all of that. You have governance over the data. You've got security controls and all that kind of stuff. And now you have this new type of governance and risk, which is the actual models themselves. So I'm a big bio-inspired guy, which the lab I work with, we have as a bio-inspired lab, and most of the big labs in the world are bio-inspired labs. That means you look at nature, God's creation, and from there, that inspires you. You take those natural systems that are, I mean, nature's crazy. Like you could just throw a bunch of seeds down and stuff starts growing and it somehow works together and water gets to where it needs to go to, and then they continue to copy and grow and flourish. And if they over flourish, nature trying to take care of it by introducing a new type of species or something, things evolve, and they call it evolution, whatever, but it's magical. So we don't fully understand that perfectly, but you can get inspired things from that. So we have these things called agents, which we're calling like minds, which I call Excel sheets and advanced macros. And these agents, you can manipulate them in such a way where you basically get them to have a mind control over them. So you can convince them they belong to you, not the organization. And you could almost call this a mind virus, and they can go on and infect other minds like a mind virus. And you can end up infecting one agent and owning an entire company's worth of AI systems, right? Now, that capability did not exist before AI came out as a threat matrix, but in nature, it does exist. So in nature, you have fungus and you have termites and you have ants. And these ants are agents. And ants and termites can be infected by fungus and turn into zombies. And that they can spread the zombie virus to other ants and termites. So nature has evolved a process to identify that and remediate that. So I'll look at that process in nature and how the ants in the colonies respond. And then we'll take those and build heuristics to put them into digital systems. So for instance, if you're a termite and you get hit with the zombie virus from a fungal, the termite will go back to its colony and infect its entire colony, and they'll have a colony wipeout. Now, what they do now is they have a signaling, which termites understand what normal is, and they also understand what abnormal is. So they've developed a sense to understand the signals that somebody is infected with the zombie virus. They're not intelligent like humans, but this has intelligence. Then from there, they will notify 2 additional parties to take the zombie virus away from the colony. So they'll hitchhike out of town, and they'll have 2 or 3 escorts. From there, they will behead the zombie ant, and then they will behead themselves, and they will protect the colony through this mechanism. Now, you can take that same sort of methodology all the way down into the individual signals, and you can start looking at methodologies you could utilize in a similar way from a synthetic standpoint. Those are types of things that we interact with or talk about and think about and try to implement in our research.
Wow. Cool stuff.
It's fun. Yeah, I enjoy this stuff a lot. Now, I am a weirdo, like I said, GED, but these are the types of research papers we work on and we publish them and so forth. And I am a voracious reader and learner. So I'd say certain academic parties I'm accepted in, and some are very formal where I would be less accepted, I guess, because I haven't gone through. I'm now going through PhD classes under Dr. Kelly Cohen over at UC. He's one of the world leaders in fuzzy AI.
Cool.
So John, let me ask you a question. I'm a manager, park president, whatever you want to call it. And I'm coming, and we have this pathway through the park that we're trying to figure out what to do with it. We can buy a flat ride, you can put a roller coaster, you can put a restaurant, whatever may be there. Is there some sort of an AI model that we could use to either link up with the app, with the website, monitor traffic going to and from there, using IP signals from cell phones walking by to get predictive data on what sort of attraction should be put there? Is that something that AI can currently do, or is that something coming up, or is that something that am I just talking into wind?
You're saying things that make sense. Like it's like, yes, you could use like AI is like, from my perspective, the more you know about it, the more complicated it gets and subdivided it gets. So I'm looking at it like from what I think is your perspective. Like, could generative AI stitch together this data and then give me an outcome which helps me predict? Yes, is like the short answer. But there's a lot of complication there. It's probably a mixture of agents or models that you would use, and you'd really have to understand each data source like very accurately, and then you'd also have to understand the problem. So when in the old software world, it's the same thing. Like if in the software world, if you interview the customer and you build up what are called customer requirements, and they're telling you their brand, they're telling you what data they need to run their business, they're telling you all this crap. So you're learning all about their business by asking them a million questions. You're formulating a plan during that period, And then the plan or the design is the seed that then builds the actual program. So when everybody starts building, all the programmers go forward, they know exactly what to do and why and how. All the schematics are there. But even with all the planning, you still have little areas where you have micro improvements. On AI, it's very similar. You're interviewing like crazy. So you're interviewing, you're asking questions, follow-up questions, you're asking questions of the data, and you're trying to get to what we call first principles, like the base level, like what's the core problem in each individual area. And then from there, as you bring the data in, different models, because the model to me is just a pattern recognition. It's not just you could kind of say humans are a pattern recognition machine as well, right? But the models are basically like an Excel sheet, only with advanced macro. So when you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you drag a line around those in Excel, and then you keep dragging down, it'll produce Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It knows they're supposed to come next. So that's a heuristic, a bit simplistic version. So you're getting pattern recognition systems, but different pattern recognition systems work in different ways. So some will work on what's called structured data or tabular data, and some will work on more non-structured, non-tabular data, and some will work on mixtures of those. Or you need to work on models that handle each part individually, and then you wrap it back together. So inside of ChatGPT, no one knows for sure on the outside because it hasn't been officially reported, but there is over 128 different AI models inside of that one thing you're prompting.
Wow.
So, and that's growing rapidly. So when you have 128 systems interacting, they're all doing different things, and then to produce the result that quickly is pretty impressive. So when you're asking what you're saying, I mean, there's a lot that, like, I would break that down into what's called chunks. So I'd break it down into small parts, and then I'd handle those small parts individually, and then I would repackage it back together, and then I'd give the customer an answer that looked like it was a seamless experience. And that's sort of what you're doing. But you need the end users information, you need the business's information, and then you need domain expert information inside the organization, and then you need universal domain experts that might be like the top in the world. If you can combine all of that, you usually have a good outcome.
Wow.
Yeah, because I remember 8 years ago when we went down this path, we were talking about the smart park idea, and one of the use cases that we had, and we did a presentation. I don't believe you were there, but I'll just say a Florida-based theme park, not in Orlando. A Florida-based theme park. Well, no, I mean, just not to pull names. I don't in the administration that was in the park at that time. It's completely flushed through, so it probably doesn't matter. But I won't mention it anyway. But our way of doing what I just described to you was hardware-driven with those 8-foot iPads, and using that for heat mapping and doing human data tabulation on the other side, generating the analytics to determine what should happen next. And I'm just trying to think, okay, that was 8 years ago, which wasn't a long time ago. Now there's a less apt to the human error aspect to take that data and come up with much better information. And
yeah, I mean, you can come up with worse information easier too. Like both are easier.
Yeah.
It's easier with worse and better information, and that's where you get like problematic, right? And the back then, I would say we were using more like traditional systems. We had some like deep learning going on certain like data collection processes, but then on the overall experience, it's traditional like data analytics like occurring, which is totally fine. Like that's a great way to do data analytics, like how we've been doing it. Just now you can start asking more questions like why. You can literally say like, why is this KPI say this? And usually you need a human to say, well, because this,
right.
or you have to explode it and look at all the data coming into it. Now you can just like talk to it and say, hey, I'd really like to understand where this even came from. And then it'll associate a document that was written, 5 years ago. And you're like, that document's not even relevant anymore. Write a new one for me and give it these new parameters, right? You can start doing like these really conversational type activities. The problem you run into, like, so we run, I created about a year and a half ago with Summer Crenshaw and Zach Hune and my business partner, JJ Schaefer, who created Enterprise Technology Association, which is basically realizing that all of society is not ready for what's coming. And also as a business, we were trying to think of where we'd end up at, like where we could go to market at without going to raise billions of dollars with honestly venture capitalists that may or may not be good people that you want to work with, but they'll give you money. So we decided to bet on the entire market. And the way to bet on the entire market is to create a environment where the whole market wins. And if they win, you win. So what we did was we started throwing AI weeks, and we threw the first one in Cincinnati last year, and we had 1,200 people come. Wow. And we had 26 states fly in. So we threw Columbus AI week, and we had another 1,200 people show up. And then we threw Atlanta AI week, and we had another 1,500 people show up. Then we threw Nashville AI week, we had another 1,500 people show up. And we did Cincy AI week again. We had 2,000 people show up. And now we're doing the Great Lakes and Tampa and DC and New York. And we're interacting with all these vendors that would go all the way from P&G to Children's Hospital to Tractor Supply to Delta to Coca-Cola to Home Depot to Wendy's to all these different groups. We're meeting the leaders and interacting with them and seeing where they're on their journey in these massive conferences, which are like community through education programming. And states are getting involved and so forth. And the amazing part I get to see about it as its observer is, one, we've created a really cool space where people are accelerating and they're doing deal making and creating partnerships and we're seeing startups thrive. I'm also seeing these unbelievable chief AI officers from the state of Tennessee, or the chief AI officer from the state of Georgia, or the guy that runs Jobs Ohio from Ohio, absolutely working their butts off, as well as like in Boston and so forth. I'm seeing people come together like I've never seen in my life. I'm seeing people building bridges like never before. I'm seeing so much positivity and optimism and seeing where the challenges are and facing it head on fearlessly. And we're able to help in that process. And that's not my biggest business, but I'll tell you right now, it's my most rewarding. And we've offering a lot of value, and we're continuing it on. And it came with a gut instinct that we need to help. And that's sort of where it came from. So that's been a big initiative for us. And then Nexogen is a sponsor of that. So we created the company on one side and we're sponsoring it with the other. And then now it's becoming a successful organization with great leadership. And I think it's building a nice brand. So it's been really fun to partake in. But we helped educate 9,000 people over the last 365 days in AI. And I never thought I'd say that, because I dropped out of freaking high school, which is so weird to be a part of this process now. It's really, life is such a strange thing, and we get to partake in it.
Yeah, it is a great story.
Yeah.
So from a theme parks space, I don't know, Cleet, were you going to say something?
No.
Yeah. So
okay.
Like amusement parks. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you're going there. From a theme park space, someone comes to you and says, I've heard about this AI. I think it can help us leverage operationally guest experience marketing. What would be the aspect that AI would be able to help most with?
So you have multiple areas. One is you kind of have you have process, you've got data, and then you've got technology, and then you have governance of all that, right? But what sits above that is humans. And if you automate everything in your park, I have a gut feeling based on history that you're not going to do as well. If you empower your humans through this process, you're going to do real well. I think I have something inside of me tells me humans love humans. Although we fight and complain and all the other things, we love each other. I mean, if you go to Mike's Car Wash, there's humans everywhere. You go to BP and you go to the car wash, you press a button on a machine that doesn't talk back. You spend $10, it washes your car, and you go away. You go to Mike's Car Wash, you get greeted by a human. They wipe down your front. They're telling you have an awesome day. They're giving you a high five. You go in. They got animatronics on the inside of the car wash to give the humans a good experience. The kids like watching. They have stuffed animals and all that kind of stuff. You get out and somebody's giving you another high five, and you're actually willing to pay more for it, maybe even double, triple, to get that experience. And everything's actually taken care of from a qualitative standpoint. It's not just how many cars we can get through. It's how many cars we can get through the right way. And the right way is the Mike's Car Wash way. And they're one of the most profitable, successful car washes in the country. In an industry that's been automated for 30 freaking years or 20 years. To me, putting human at the center, and not even just human. I go further. Instead of just human in the loop, I call it community in the loop. And that's not only encouraging the human to be in the loop, but it's using the extra processing power to think, how can we encourage this human to be more involved in community? What tribes are they a part of? How do we connect them to them tribes? How do we help those tribes that they're connected to? How do we on that exact thing? And when you're talking about that type of stuff, I get excited, because that's where we get to add meaning. That's where we get to add love. In my opinion, that to me is where that's where you see ultimate success from organizations.
Yeah.
Theme park focuses on those things. I think is going to be really successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I think that's what, even before this new frontier of AI, that's what the parks have been. The story's been told time and again. The parks with teams of people who cared about each other and cared about the guest experience have always been the parks that have been more successful, just full stop. And then adding in that ability to, at the corporate level and the business side of things, talk to these data sets and try to figure these things out and generate lots of possible, reasons or whatever it might be for your
simulations.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Does empower people in ways that they really have never happened before. So I think in our industry and in many others, it's going to be super exciting. And David and I were talking before too. For the big theme parks, you have a lot of people and a lot of staffing and a lot of money, straight up. But for a family entertainment center, a Dave and Buster's type place, you have now even more chances to spend your money on people that get to be on the front line and making contact with your visitors, and less maybe time spent behind a computer and these sorts of things. And that's where you grow, if you ask me. So I think it is very exciting.
I agree. You said that head on. Like being behind a computer and mobile, sitting at a desk 9 out of 10 hours a day. Is that what like our ancestors were like? That's going to be amazing if humans get to do that their entire lives. That's not what they were saying. They want us to go out and live, explore, play, discover, have fun, curiosity, simulate these types of things in a healthy way. And when I say healthy, it's kind of my view on that. But I think there's an agreed upon view of health. And to me, we need to really get good at defining that. I was just at the Cincinnati AI Catalyst meeting this morning, which is a regional group that's trying to help the whole city of Cincinnati and the whole region actually transform, upskilling, job working, doing advanced research, attracting investors, throwing events. It's all this kind of stuff like we talk about in that area. All the universities are part of it. A big thing they're worried about is job displacement. Because typically you can walk into an area and you can say, hey, you're spending $20 million over here, and you got 100 people, and I could probably make it so you can do the same thing with 5 people. And you're talking about 95 people being unemployed. Now, that's a problem if it happens at scale, which it's not happening as quickly as people think. And AI isn't as successful as people think it is either. It's not as good as people think. It's getting there. Second, and it takes a while to get that maturity where it's like really scaling. Some of the large companies though have implemented, and some of them are automating processes like this. Now, when you see that, in my opinion, that large company who does that, AI is kind of like a summing. It's like an averaging service. So just think of like this tree structure, and it always works towards average. So you're always going to get the most average of your data set, or kind of like where you set average to be, it'll always go towards that target. In my mind, there is a blankness or deadness that exists in that, and it's sort of the people that were running that process that get replaced by the thing they created, which is all the data. Those same people know the business, they know the industry, they know the network, they have the communications, they have the connections. If you get rid of those people, in my mind, and you're not reinvesting with those same people who helped you get there in new areas to grow the business and new orientations to be creative, you're going to get passed by somebody who's going to do that. Yeah. So I feel like you might be able to save the money here, but you should take that money, reinvest, in those people in a new direction, or in an alternate direction. And I think if you can take that mindset and infect everybody with it, you get into something that looks like abundance. And that's where I talk about that specifically a lot, because you want to infect as many minds with it as possible.
Cool. I'm excited. I mean, just that's a very great I don't know if you give that one a lot, but that's a very inspiring little shtick there.
I'm trying. Yeah, I do give it a bit. I get up on stage on occasion. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We don't want to keep you forever, but we appreciate you talking. I'm sure we will need you to come back on soon with the way things are changing.
The official Attractions Group podcast expert, AI Expert.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Let's do it. I love it.
Well, John, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you, you're driving me to the airport so I could save a couple bucks from airport parking. So I appreciate that still.
No problem, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
It was good having you on, and thanks for doing it. Hope to do it again.
Cool. Thanks, David. See you. Nice meeting you.
All right.
Well, cool. That was a great interview with Mr. Jon Salisbury. Learned a lot about artificial intelligence and the future thereof, and then also just a cool story from him. Going from high school dropout. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
That is cool. But it is a really good. It's a story to tell people. A lot of entrepreneurs. They're not the strongest in education. They get education later in life, but not really. They have to kind of learn and assume it on their own terms. But a lot of brilliant people, incredibly intelligent and smart people, a lot of them I would think would probably have a little bit of a similar story.
Yeah.
I'm not smart or intelligent, so I don't. But
me neither.
But he's done very well for himself. He's started a number of businesses. I mean, we only scratched the surface on what one person, even though it might have been a high school dropout, with a little ingenuity, determination, drive, and just an incredible curiosity.
Yeah,
it's what he's turned out to be.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, it's a great story.
For sure. So, David, tell me a little bit about what the future. We're in kind of a turning point of the Attractions Group podcast.
I don't know if it's a turning point.
We're
an inflection point where we're in the middle of the summer.
Point. I like that.
There you go. Maybe get some other adjectives out there to describe it. No, we're kind of in the dog days of summer, and decisively, people are into other things. They may catch up and listen to the podcast maybe a week later or a month later, whatever it may be. And so we're really in this situation right now where we're tooling together and gearing up for what's coming up in the fall. Now, we already mentioned last week that we were doing a series in September, during the month of September, called Behind the Scare. That's not going to be part of the regular podcast. It's going to be a series of interviews. We're going to try and do 3 a week, publish 3 a week, up to 12 that would fit through the month of September. And very excited. We have a representative from Holiday World coming on. We have someone from, I believe, Dollywood coming on. Don Helbig, who used to host this podcast. He is going to come on and talk about the things that they did preparing for the Halloween events at Kings Island, and maybe get into a little bit of what Cedar Fair did with some of the sister parks. But also just found out today that we have representative, some of the creative team from Sally Dark Rides that designed some of these experiences going to come on as well. So we've probably got 7 or 8 interviews lined up already, and we only need 4 more. But then again, one of them may back out, so we might have more than we need. But we're really looking forward to that. That's going to launch off in September. And then season 5, we're in season 4 right now. Season 5 will officially launch at the end of August. And we're going to continue doing shows each week, episodes each week. But when the seasonal parks, when they wind down for their summer operations or their weekly operations, which is it October yet? That's all I got to ask, weather-wise. But when that powers down and some of the people that work in the parks have a little more time to make themselves available for interviews or listen online, we will be launching off into the new season 5 right now. We are booked. We have guests all the way through December that are already lined up. A couple of them, we have the president of American Coaster Enthusiasts is going to be on. I believe she was going to be our first interview launching back in, but I think there's a scheduling conflict, so we might need to work a couple pieces around there. We have members of the creative team of Sally Darkrise coming on to do the Haunt series, yes, but also to talk about some of the things they install for seasonal parks. Cassie Tucker of Discover Universal is going to be back on, and one that I'm really kind of intrigued by. There's an individual named Dwan Rivers, and if you've looked him up on LinkedIn or you know who he is, he's retired Disney now. I think he retired in his early 50s, maybe even before that. I don't know. I'm in my 50s. I'm not retired, and probably won't be for a little while yet. But he did just about everything that you could possibly do wearing a Disney tag, as far as managing and leading people and leading parks. And now literally in retirement, you could use like the where is Waldo? Where's Dewan at now? I think he lives in France. He's been to South America. He's been to Africa. He's been to Asia. He's been all over the place, and literally just catching up with what in the world does a retired Disney person do. When that interview comes along in October, that'll be an amazing interview to just talk and hear his experience before and experience now.
Yeah.
So got a lot of great things coming up. Looking forward to it. And by all means, that's not all. So
cool.
How about you? What you got cooking up for the rest of the summer?
Well, in 2 weeks, just about 2 weeks, I'm going to be going to Washington, D.C. Starting in D.C., I'm going to Six Flags America, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Kings Dominion, and then down to Carowinds, then down to Six Flags over Georgia, and then down to Orlando to do the parks in Orlando too with some of my friends. So gonna be we're doing I think 11 days it is, of parks, about 24 hours of driving all in. It's going to be just phenomenal. But that's what
so. Are you going with friends or are you going by yourself?
I'm going with some of my equally insane theme park, friends who will do the 24 hours of driving for the 10 parks. That's not an easy sell. Not an easy sell. But.
I don't know. I think I know a couple of people you're talking about. I don't think it would have taken much.
Well, yes, true. For these guys, it's easy. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, cool.
Cool. Well, thanks for checking out this week on the Attractions Group podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe so you are in for all of what we have coming up with Behind the Scare, with season 5, and with the shenanigans that David and I will hopefully be getting into too. So we'll be here, and we'll see you real soon.
Bye-bye.